Murky mystery at the bottom of a lake in Doral. About 30 cars were found submerged in the water near Northwest 90th Avenue and 13th Terrace.
Crews spent much of the day at the scene. Officials say they may be stolen vehicles and appear to have been in deep water for more than 20 years.
Now, on Sunday, a team of volunteer divers investigating missing person cold cases had alerted police the first car pulled up this morning was a stolen 2002 Nissan Altima.
So a lot of questions tonight. So let's bring in former FBI agent, now South Florida attorney Stuart Kaplan, who is not involved in this specific investigation, but who can give us some insight on what could be happening right now.
Stuart, let me ask you, first of all, what are your initial thoughts on how these cars, and so many of them, ended up in the lake and why?
Well, probably historically, when this industrial park was not there, it probably was a draw, and it was very accessible to those who were aware of this lake being maybe utilized for nefarious purposes. But let me tell you what's most interesting. Each one of these recovered cars will have its own story. And that's because each of these cars have what we all know is to be a VIN number, or a vehicle identification number. And when all of these cars went missing, those VIN numbers would be entered into NCIC. That's the National Crime Information Center, which happens to be maintained by the FBI. And so law enforcement will now go back and run those VIN numbers. And it will be very interesting to see how many unsolved crimes will now be able to be closed out because of now the recovery of these individual vehicles.
Yeah, so we were hearing from our reporter who's been covering the story all day long, and he said that homicide investigators were on the scene in the event that one of the cars pulled up. Perhaps the VIN matches one of the cases that they have been investigating. So how could these cold cases be solved? Something beyond just a stolen car situation, but possibly something much more sinister.
So by way of example, a missing persons report, when someone goes missing and the family or loved ones say that not only is this person gone missing, but they may have had access to a vehicle, or they left in their vehicle and we have not seen them for a number of years or months or weeks. Again, that information in connection with that vehicle will be uploaded into NCIC. And so let's just assume that none of these vehicles that were recovered in the last couple of days actually physically had someone's body in it, or the remains or the decomposition of anybody in that car. That doesn't in any way dismiss the possibility of utilizing that vehicle to then further a cold case in locating a missing person, or further in furtherance of solving a homicide which has been shelved for a number of years? Or is this more nefarious, where there's a ring of individuals who were working in concert? Because this, this many of cars is indicative of, was this a stolen car ring? Now, generally, when we see a stolen car ring, they don't necessarily dump the car. They sell the car for its parts, or they dismantle the car. In this particular case, it looks like these cars were pretty well intact. So this may be nothing more than a group of juveniles who were stealing cars and going on joyrides and just dumping the cars in these lakes, or in this lake, over the course of many years.
Now, most of the vehicles are thought to be older model cars. Are you surprised by how long those cars may have been at the bottom of that lake so many years?
So, when I heard the story unfold, of course, I can't help myself but put my FBI hat back on. And I will just say that it would seem to me that the Doral Police Department or the Miami Police Department or some law enforcement agency, in connection with an ongoing investigation, was able to develop some other information through either a confidential informant, a cooperating witness, or a target or a subject of a investigation who now is in police custody, and in exchange for his or her cooperation may have now tipped off law enforcement. And I say that because of the isolated location of this man-made lake, which is behind an industrial park, I just don't see divers just happen to fall upon this lake and happen to say, let's go into this lake and conduct a dive without some credible information. So I think that's what also you're going to see play out in the next couple of days or weeks when this investigation starts to be pieced together.
Yeah, something you said makes a lot of sense, is that each individual car has its own story. So we'll be standing by to hear those stories. Stuart Kaplan, thank you very much for taking time out.